Part 1. Can I see your passport? Yes, sure. Here is my passport that I registered with. Please take a look. What is your name? My given name is Asha and my family name is Thomas. Please call me by my first name Asha. Where do you live? I live in a 3-bedroom house in Udayamperoor, Kochi. What is your favorite food? I love chicken biryani. It's a type of, and it is just so good to eat when I am feeling hungry. In fact, I just had it yesterday for lunch. Let's talk about sleep. How many hours do you sleep a day? I get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day, usually from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. I find this amount of sleep is the right amount to give me a full charge for the next day. Where do you like to sleep? Definitely in my own bed. It is comfortable and spacious. Whenever I sleep on my sofa or elsewhere, I just don't feel as rested. When do you go to bed and why? Oh, as I had said a moment ago, I usually get to bed around 11 at night. However, on the weekends, if I am hanging out with my family, I go to bed later, midnight or 1 a.m. I was watching a late movie with my husband a couple of weeks ago and I remembered I was quite late. What helps you to sleep better and why? When I get fresh air and exercise and some good food, I sleep like a baby. I went for shopping last Tuesday and when I hit the hay I was out like a light. How do you feel when you do not get enough sleep? Like most people, I feel quite grumpy when I'm low on sleep. I get cranky and I'm irritable. My attention span is low and I tend to snap at people. So it's definitely better for me to get a full night's rest. Have you ever had difficulties sleeping? If yes, why? Yes, I have. I've especially had difficulty getting shut-eye when I have some important and stressful event the next day, such as the IELTS exam. My mind tends to race thinking about the upcoming events of next day. Fortunately, I go for a hike or exercise that helps. Of course, chess is one of the oldest board games which requires a lot of calculation and strategic planning. Basically, chess is where there are 2 players on a checkered board with 16 game pieces each. Every piece is moved according to precise rules and the goal is to place the opponent's king under attack with no escape. I have been inspired by a new series on Netflix called Queen's Gambit, which is about a woman who is a brilliant chess player. Chess has been played by millions of people for over centuries and it is commonly known as a game that develops critical thinking and foresight. An important element of the game is to predict the opponent's moves and always be one step ahead of them. I think this game can improve my pattern recognition and memory skills, not to mention that it also seems like a lot of fun, and it's very competitive, and I like competition. In order to make this a reality, I simply need to go out and buy a nice chessboard and download a chess app on my phone. Of course, I will need to find some opponents to play with either in person or online. Last but not least, I will need to read up on some basic strategy so that I have an idea of what I'm doing. Part 2. Talk about an exercise you have thought of doing to help you think better. What is the activity or exercise? Where did this idea come from? How can this practice help improve your thinking? What do or did you need to make this idea a reality? You will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare what you are going to say. Recently, I have been considering learning to play chess in order to improve my thinking and mind. Part 2. Questions continuous. When do you plan to start playing chess? Well, I have already been shopping around for a chessboard and I started reading an ebook on chess strategy, so right away. Does anyone in among your family or friends play chess? My mom plays chess, but I think she's too busy these days to teach me. Also, some of my cousins and friends play as well. Let's talk more about exercising the mind. What are different ways that people keep their minds in good health? As I said, like chess, strategy games are a good way to keep the mind fit. Also, learning languages has been shown to be very good for long mental health, and I think that physical exercise is also very important. After all, the brain is a biological machine. Which of these is the most effective? That's a tough question because all of these are very important. But I suppose if I could choose only one, it would be physical exercise, since an unhealthy body would definitely deteriorate the mind. Some people believe that a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. Do you agree with this? Why or why not? Yes, as I have just mentioned, this is very true. The brain requires a lot of blood and nutrients to function well. I've read that in certain situations, like exams, the brain can use up about 60% of the metabolic energy produced by the body, which is incredible considering that it only makes up about 2% of our body weight. Is this always true? Yes, I think this will always hold true. Like people who drink alcohol and use drugs all eventually feel the negative effects on their mind's function. What Improvements in the education system could improve the thinking of students? I think that a greater emphasis on critical thinking instead of rote memory would be a big positive for school curricula. Can you elaborate on that? Certainly. I think that many school lessons still focus too much on memorizing historical and scientific facts like the name of the third prime minister, rather than focusing on rational thinking such as understanding the best way to evaluate the future of a stock price. Let's discuss effective learning. What are the most important steps needed to make sure students learn effectively? I think that systematic assessment and feedback are very important to optimize the learning of students. Why are these so important? These are important to keep track of students' abilities and development as well as to identify areas that need improvement. Can you give an example of this? Yes, while studying for IELTS, I did one full practice exam each week and I always spent a few hours identifying and learning from my mistakes. This way I learned that I have to pay attention to verb tense in my writing. How has technology helped increase the efficiency of learning? There are a plethora of ways that modern tech has improved learning. The internet has given a wealth of resources to both teachers and students which simply wasn't nearly as accessible in the past. Which kinds of technology will make a big difference in education and learning in the future? I think that virtual reality and AL will make a great impact on future learning. I think that this will allow students to be even more engaged with their subjects and therefore